Hello and welcome to Property Mastermind podcast with Hilary Saxton and Bob Anderson. Today, episode 100. What a milestone. We are going to be covering a bit of the best of by going through the podcast and picking out the bits that had great tips or hoping to enlighten you in case you've missed a couple on where you might want to go back to. So let's jump on into episode 100. Well, hey, episode 100. Welcome, everybody. This is exciting for us. Welcome, Bob.
Welcome. Thank you. 100. You've done it.
We've done it.
We've done it. It did start off with you, the podcast.
It did. It started
Back
off.
in the day. How long ago was that?
It was June 21.
June 21. Just about, 2 years, 100 episodes. That's a pretty good effort.
I had short hair when we started this. It's back to long hair. Incredibly. I had hair as short as you. Now I have long hair. That's how many episodes we've done.
Yeah.
So
wow.
it did start off, we decided to do a podcast and we thought we'd make it around property mindset. But then we realised and we started getting a few questions about property development as well, like talking more about the technical on property development. And I started bringing you in as a guest.
Yep.
And then we decided.
And now, we still have some mind stuff. We still have some mindset stuff because I know whenever you do that, it really ranks well.
Yes, they are episodes that are popular, but it's been great having the two of us.
Yeah. No, it's good. And what have you done? You've got like a best of, like what happens at Christmas when people bring out a Christmas album or the best of something.
This is our Christmas album, Bob.
The Christmas album in June. Oh, it could be Christmas in June.
Yeah, mid-year. For those who can hear Bob's voice sounding a little bit croaky, he just did a 3-day workshop, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, so...
Yeah, we did, and I usually end up pretty hoarse at the end of that. 3 days of non-stop talking, and it doesn't even end at the end of the gig, does it? Because, sometimes we go on after it where we just talk to everybody.
Yeah, so it's been, you sound like you've been gargling gravel.
Yeah, I'll get there. It'll be right. Give me a couple of days.
Yes, okay, so... We started with all you need to know about the podcast where we talked about where I talked about what was going to be in it. And you came in on episode 2, Bob.
As a guest. I think I was a guest for a little while. I did.
That one you were, yeah. And that was...
one a month or something.
And that was why property development.
Why? Yeah, well, of course. That's I'm always talking about why property development.
But what do you always say? And you always say it, and it cracks me up because if anyone else is saying this, you heard it. He's been saying this for years.
Probably everyone uses it, but it's the pinnacle of all property strategies. It's where the most money's made. It's where you need to be. Property development.
It is where the most money is made. When you compare it with investing, it's not the slow burn. It's
all good.
Faster.
But I mean, developers can invest too. It's just that we get a $600,000 property for $500 and we keep it and we invest that way. We don't invest retail, so we do that.
It's like you're always buying on sale.
Where you want to be.
It is where you want to be.
You don't see Mirvac out there just buying residential properties and sitting on them for ages. They get out there and get active. They don't do renos either. They do property developments and they hold some of them. Mirvac, Lendlease, Australand, all the big developers. That's what we do, only we're little micro developers instead, but we follow the same principles.
Yeah, perfect. So that's why property development. What about the next one, Bob? Episode 5 was the advantages of property development over investing. And I suppose you've just covered
Almost
it there.
said it.
Yeah.
Getting it at, a lot of people say wholesale, but it's not wholesale, it's raw cost. That's that's why. That gives us a huge advantage on people in the normal retail market who have to pay retail price. Yep, and that's why, yeah.
Do talk to a lot of people that join us, join our community, that have been investing for a while.
Yeah.
And I think it's a little bit easier to get started because it's easier to get started.
Well, you're a bit more comfortable with property. You've bought stuff, you've financed things, so it's just a logical step. But it doesn't have to be that step. I went straight into property development before I ever owned an investment property. You can do that, but nothing wrong with property investment. Just get stuff at cost, not retail. That's my word.
Yeah, everything's always better at cost than retail. Everything.
I love buying. I love bargains. That's why I love a bargain, even if it's even if it's a property investment. I got to get a bargain.
What about episode 7 was goal setting for property development?
Oh, yours. Yeah, tell me about that. Goal setting, critical.
Critical.
Well, how do you know where you're going if you don't have goals and set a plan?
it's just so my buzz, setting goals, and it's so underrated. It's been watered down, and I believe due to the internet, people don't really understand the value and what it does to your brain and everything. In fact, we're about to relaunch the Property Accelerator membership, and I've just been we're on the re-record for that, so it's looking pretty good.
Yeah, you're doing a whole new course on what's that on?
It's performance and mindset for property development.
I love performance.
Yeah.
Love it, performing. Yeah, you're doing that. I'm doing my thing. So that's going to be launched pretty soon.
Yeah.
I've got an exact date, but it won't be far off. The Property Accelerator.
No, so
membership program.
You may have been in the past, and we're about to do a relaunch. So it's
bigger and better than ever.
Bigger and better. We're pretty excited. I'm really excited. But that was goal setting. Then episode 8, how to get into property development when you have a job, Bob.
When you got a job, Bob.
Yeah, when you got a job, Bob. How to get into property development.
Look, if you've got a day job, keep it. That's what I say. Keep it and start your first development and maybe even finish your first one. What you need to do is time your exit. And look, it's handy to have a job when you do your first development because you've got serviceability. So it doesn't mean you can't. Look, if you've already given up your day job or you don't have one, there are ways of getting into property development. You've got to be creative, but there are ways. But if you've got a day job, I say keep it, get your project finance, and if you want to extract yourself on your first project, do it as you're realising your profit. Or maybe just do that and think about it on your second project.
And we've had plenty of people come through the program and give up their day job, especially if they've gone through our mentoring program. But
heaps of people.
Yeah, absolutely. And often, absolutely, that's terrible. We try to cut that word from our vocab. But often they go through a transition where they go to part-time as well. Yeah, and then they don't always jump straight over. Sometimes they reduce it back, and sometimes they go straight from...
That's great. That's great if you can do that.
Yeah.
If you can pull back, go from 5 days full-time to 3 days part-time and slowly extract yourself.
Well, we just had a new mentoring student. He's just gone from 5 days to 4 days.
Yeah.
And that made him decide to sign up. That's what he chose to do, so that's epic. Okay, then we went to an interview with Mary Brownell.
Oh, Mary.
Mary from Tasmania.
I love Mary.
The great thing about Mary's story is...
Wow, she's courageous, that woman.
She is courageous, and she developed an amazing property, and she has the only Lexus outlet, and she's kept it as a...
She kept it, and Lexus rented off her. So
That's right.
I got a feeling it's the only Lexus, I don't know what you call it, it's a big showroom. It's got a showroom with everything
in it. They have a cafe and a simulator and stuff like that.
Boardroom, they got everything there. It's the only one that they don't own that they've actually leased off somebody.
Is it?
I think. And Mary owns it.
She does, and she developed that. That was a very old building in Hobart on a corner.
Yeah.
Bob and I,
mixed use development.
Yeah, so commercial underneath.
Yeah, commercial and retail underneath, and some apartments up the next couple of levels.
Very beautiful. We went and stayed there.
We did stay there and catch up with Mary, and you did I think you coincided that with a
Women in Tourism talk.
Women in Tourism, the Tasmania Tourism Connection there, and you did that.
I do a bit of public speaking.
I didn't get to attend that.
No, you get to hang out. You get to hang out though.
Well, I'm not a woman in tourism. I'm a man in property development. So
I'm not a woman in tourism either, though. It was about.
But you were talking about the business of
and the mindset and
helping people with their tourism projects and that sort of thing. So I remember that was a great trip to Tassie. Anyway, I love Tassie.
And it was a great interview with Mary.
Was a great interview with
Then
Mary.
episode 10, what makes a good property development site? Bit of a favourite, that one.
Well, yeah.
That's something that people like to know about.
It's got to be one that stacks up first.
Yes.
Yeah. Look, property development's about numbers. I mean, a good one is where the numbers are good, and why the numbers are good because the due diligence has come out well. Look, property development, you're going to get snags along the way. I mean, we don't look at it through rose-coloured glasses. If it was really easy, everyone would be doing it. You can make a lot of money. You've got to do it well. And so what makes a good one? You're going to have a few speed bumps, like I say, the odd detour. But, I mean, the perfect one would be one that stacks up better than the average margin and doesn't have detours or speed bumps. But there's not many where you don't have things to deal with. And that's just all part of property development.
Having the right team around you.
Good team around you.
Having someone who knows the answers. Sounds
always
like you.
helps. Well,
yes.
could be me or could be, an architect and engineer who's ever needed at the time, really. Just a good team, yeah.
Then we had the highest and best use of your property.
Oh, that snags a few people, yeah.
Because people always think jam as many on as they can, and that's not always the
More
answer.
is better. Some town planners think that way, some architects think that way, and it isn't always the case, as we know. Well, just on the workshop we just finished, remember I put up some of those examples at the workshop where they'd put, say, 5 townhouses on a site that really should have had 4 and absolutely killed it, murdered it. You couldn't make it work.
So that's highest and best use. Then the importance of having a structure in place when you're doing a property development.
Whoa.
Nothing more said. That is just vital. You need to have
Critical.
Yeah, you need to have a structure in place.
Yeah, and I mean the 2 main reasons are minimising tax and asset protection. But yeah, I've seen people just go and do developments in their own name. They put everything at risk that's in their name, and they end up paying a big whack of tax, personal income tax, when they could be down in the 20s somewhere if they'd structured it better.
What about episode 15, the benefit of having a supportive partner when it comes to property development? You have to have, we can't control that. Not everyone's supportive, but it does make it easier. And if you don't have a supportive partner, the things you need to do so you don't feel like you're on your own.
Supportive's great, even if they're neutral.
Yes.
That's still okay.
Yes, you're right.
It's hard if you've got someone pulling against you.
Yes.
And so if you do, well, you've got to get them on side. And look, we've done that with people. We've met people who are really gung-ho wanting to do property developments. Their partner's a bit negative or whatever. And, after a little bit of time, a few discussions, examining their issues and why they're fearful, perhaps, and how you can mitigate risk a lot. Sometimes they come around at least to being neutral, which is okay.
Better than being anti.
No, anti doesn't work.
No. And then what about episode 19, how to use creative strategies, everyone's favourite topic, using other people's money?
Everyone's favourite topic. I started teaching some creative strategies in 1989. Ooh. Yeah, that's a while ago.
It is a while ago.
Before anybody thought about it. But no, creative strategies are really just ways to structure deals where you can do developments with little money of your own or even none of your own and get a good chunk of the profits, I guess. And yeah, sure, it's important to know that.
And yes, very important and useful for those who think that they can't.
My first 2 projects were done with no money. I never put 5 cents down on the first 2 projects I did.
We have people in our community of the same, Bob, right now.
It can kick you off if you're short of money.
It can.
It's a bit of extra work on your part. I mean, if you've got the money, you just got to find a good deal. If you haven't got the money, then you have to find a good deal, of course, but then you have to work on putting investors into the deal, or an investor at least. But that's what you have to do to get going,
What about episode 23, the dangers of property developing in cheaper areas?
Doesn't work.
Yes.
No. Some people have the attitude that if they develop in a cheap area, then it's going to be good because everybody can afford to buy their product. That's not how it works.
They forget that
that's true that everybody can, but
they forget that the build price is probably going to be the same as developing anywhere else.
Yeah, the build price is the same, the consultants' fees are the same, what you pay for money is the same, the GST is the same, marketing. Yeah, and the problem is that you generally can't get land cheap enough to develop in a cheap area and make a profit. It's back to that highest and best use. It's worth more as a house than as a development site in those cheap areas. And you might scrape by on a land subdivision, but once you start building stuff like, townhouses or duplexes or anything, it gets too tough.
Yeah. Okay, Bob, what about how much money can you make from property development? Episode 26.
Wow.
Well, there's money to be made. There's plenty. And if you don't know what you're doing, there's money to be lost.
There's money to be made. There's money to be lost.
Yep.
In anything, really. You can lose money on property investments and renos. And
yep.
You can probably do it better and lose money better and faster in property development if you don't do it right. The incentive is to do it right. So what was that? How much money can you make out of property development?
In a property development.
Yeah, well, it's pretty much proportional to the type of project, the size of the project and where it is.
Where it is, there you go.
So typically the smaller the project, the smaller the profit, but not necessarily. I mean, if you did a duplex in I don't know, Potts Point or Neutral Bay or somewhere in Sydney, it would be worth more than probably a 10-pack of townhouses somewhere else. So location does have a bit to do with it, the size and the type of the project. So look, it's hard to make less than $100,000 out of anything. I mean, even if you do a little split or a 2-lot subdivision, it's more than $100,000 profit. Otherwise, it's not worth doing anyway. But so I guess you could say 100,000 upwards.
Perfect. What about episode 35? How do I find investors for my development? I do this a lot.
That's your area of expertise.
With our mentoring students, it's one of those things that there is definitely a technique to finding investors, and there is a strategy that you need to use. It's not
just finding them, but getting them on board into
yeah.
one of your projects.
Yeah, there's a bit more to that, but that was a good episode.
What number episode was that? I think a lot of people want to watch that.
How do I find it? It was 35.
Episode 35. Okay.
Then I've jumped down to number 47. How do I start property developing?
Well, how do you start? Don't jump in and swim fast.
No, good point.
Get some education first.
Of course, we're going to say that because we have an education business, but it's
as
true.
A principle.
Yeah.
Even
yes.
forgetting about the fact that we do it. Get yourself educated.
Yeah.
Don't just jump in. Don't think you can learn it all off the internet. Don't think you can just watch other people and try and reverse engineer it for free. The bit you'll spend on education will pay for itself 100 times over.
There you go.
And not making mistakes and losing money.
Great tip.
And that's the same in lots of stuff, not just property development.
Yeah.
Just jumping into things. It could be shares, could be anything. Just don't jump in foolishly.
Well, even the launch of my book, I just took
that's
four and a half.
That's pretty close.
It is. I've given myself a wee plug. Well, I wasn't really, but I will now. But it took 4.5 years to write, and it wasn't until I signed up with the publishing company, and really they just pushed me to get it done.
They whipped you.
Oh gosh, yes. I did full weekends.
Sometimes we need a good whipping.
But it was already complete. It's just I had to go back after editing and fix stuff. And
there's so much post-writing stuff. I never realised it.
Yeah. Had I not been pushed, it wouldn't have happened. Yeah. So I definitely agree. But I'm always I don't know, I invest in myself all the time. If I want to learn something, I just go and invest in myself. And I think the proof's in the pudding.
Sure is.
The more that you learn professionally, the better you get at doing what you do. I think most people know I used to be a 100-kilo single mum on a benefit. That's from there moving forward is really just by learning what I needed to know, paying for it.
Yeah, and then putting it into action.
Oh, for sure, yeah. Tenacity's got a bit to do with it.
Grit, determination, tenacity, I love those words.
Yeah.
You need it.
What about number 48, how to build a property development business through good relationships? And I think here we'll be talking about our friend Connie. Which I still keep saying every time I have this podcast, we have to get you on. But she's one of the masters, I see, at relationships. She's very good at building relationships.
Yeah, because she's very straight up front, honest, but decisive, knows what she wants and does it.
Yeah, just natural relationship builder.
Forming good relationships with people, agents and builders and, consultants and that sort of thing. Yeah.
She did. Jeremy does the same, Bob.
Jeremy's got he's put a whole crack team together for what he does. And look, some of my relationships go back 40 years.
Yeah.
And
those people that you've had those relationships for a long time, they will jump in and help out when something's needed. I know we've had cases where we need lawyers to sign things, and they bend over backwards, don't they?
Yeah. And that's the benefit of favour when you have good relationships.
Yeah. Alrighty, next. Where am I up to? I'm looking through my list.
Grabbing the odd selection.
Number 51, how can I be ready for the unplanned things in property development?
Well, just looking back on that, planning is important.
Yeah.
I mean, you're talking about unplanned, but having a really good, strong plan is important as well. A really good business plan, knowing what you have to do every step of the way, choosing the right team. I mean, I'm probably talking about minimising problems here. But whenever a problem arises in property development, there's nearly always an expert that you can get help from. The idea is not to fall into those times, but sometimes they happen. You know, if it's a design thing, it could be the architect. If it's things around service and sewage and storm water that can blow up, it's a civil engineer.
And I think when we're talking about that, Bob, it's also knowing which things to eliminate before they become a problem as well. So that's part of knowing what the process is, knowing what you need to do before you go too far and realise it becomes a major problem.
Yeah, often when people get into trouble, it's not some incredible 1 in a million thing happened. It was there, but they didn't know what they didn't know.
Yeah.
And that's why.
And that's why. Number 54, we did the interview with Anna Kate.
That was very popular. People love us talking to other developers, other people in the business.
And a woman with 4 kids? 4 kids? 3 kids?
No.
2 kids?
Yeah, got a hand.
Anyway, few kids.
And a husband, which is a husband's the equal of 2 children. Not just her husband. All husbands are the equal of 2 children.
Yes.
Well, I've been told that. I don't know if it's true. But yeah, she's a crack. She came through our mentoring program a few years ago, and she's taken the cudgel within the family. She gets good support. We just talked about the importance of having support from your partner. So she gets excellent support from her partner, but she's at the coalface doing it.
Yep.
And I wouldn't know what number of projects she's up to, but she just knuckles down and does it. And that's in a regional area, not in a big city.
And loves it.
Oh, yeah.
Loves property development. Yeah, very inspirational lady, worth listening to.
Yeah, everybody loved that podcast.
So that's episode 54. What about episode 58? How to find property development sites that stack up. Really, that's learning how to do the numbers.
Well, finding them, doing your DD, doing the numbers as well. But, I mean, there's lots of ways of coming across sites. I mean, you at the workshop the other day, we went through a whole heap of developments that I've done over the years and where those sites popped up. Every one of them was from a different direction.
Avenue?
You know, not just the local real estate agent, but a whole range of avenues that sites have popped in. So, yeah, it's not just the local real estate agent for sure.
Episode 64, when can I leave my job and do property development full time? We kind of covered this in that earlier one.
We did a little bit earlier, yeah. Definitely. I mean, ideally, when you're ready to realise the profit out of a project, you might be doing a small project and you've got 300,000 profit coming. That's a good time because you can allocate a bit of that to carry you forward for 12 months in terms of your income. The rest of it you could, plough back into a project.
What about what to do when you buy a dud site because you haven't probably done the right due diligence, didn't quite know what you're doing? And I think often the podcast stem from conversations I had, and I remember I'd spoken to a young guy and he'd bought a site.
Yeah.
He rang because he was thinking about educating.
Was it a good one?
No, he'd done it a few years earlier and it didn't stack up and he was kind of stuck with it. Then he rang me and he'd just done it all over again.
What, bought another one?
Yep. Before he got educated and it's like, oh no. So
the price of education.
Oh,
Two
yeah.
dud sites or lack of it, yeah.
And it's hard to get ahead, when you're a married young guy with a couple of small children and then you keep going on to the back foot. At what point do you sell, hold?
Yep. And look, sometimes people just sit on it and wait for the market to eventually improve enough where they can do it. Some people just bite the bullet, even if they've got to lose a bit of money to go forward. Sometimes you've got to go it's not what you want to do, but, life can dish it up for whatever reason that you might have to go a little bit backwards before you can go forwards.
Because it's the cost of time and money, as in not just the cost of you waiting for the property to go up, but what could your money be doing?
Exactly, the opportunity cost.
That's right. I hear you talk to the kids about
Yeah.
it. Our kids, mine and his.
Let's just say that you had to bite the bitter pill and lose $100,000 by getting out of something, or wait 5 years for the market to improve when you could then do it. That you could have done 2 or 3 projects in that 5 years and made maybe $1 million, but you had to go back 100,000 first. And it's weighing it up. Sometimes you could look for an alternate use. It might not be the one that you thought. There might be another use that maybe could work, maybe not as well, but could work, and still do that.
Next one, number 82, where is your mind set? That's where I talked about, are you a thermostat or a thermometer? Are you controlled by your environment? Which flows on quite nicely from that one. Or do you control your environment? You're determining your future. You're taking the actions, or are you reacting?
Yeah.
So that's another goodie. Then we went on to 83, the interview with the Spurgeons, another popular episode. People
Always
do like
are.
the interviews.
They do.
Probably should do some more.
We should do some more.
With,
And we
suc-
will.
with successful students. We will do that.
Yeah. So John and Taz,
That was
a great one. And look, what I liked about that interview, they're doing well, but they're very open and honest. In terms of, it's been a bit of a trip for them, and the sacrifices that they've made to themselves and their family to get to where they're in a lovely place at the moment. But it wasn't all wine and roses to get there. They had to work hard and knuckle down and deal with issues
It probably took them
make
5 years,
sacrifices.
didn't it? But John left his job, and then they built the property development business, and they were in rented houses. But now it's all changed, And
Now-
they've both, doing development full
Now they
time.
can live in the mansion and drive the car of their choice, and they've got some great developments happening.
They do.
But it's people just being honest. Like I say, property development. Yeah, look, if it was a absolute cracker, easy thing everybody could do, everybody would do it. But it's certainly worth doing, Jay. I mean, I'm either an idiot or I'm onto a good thing because I've been doing it for 40 years.
I think you're onto a good thing, Bob. Jamie and Casey's interview, that was episode 88. That's another cracker. But these are more mentoring students who are just, they're right on the tail of the Spurgeons, really.
Those guys are doing really well. But, I mean, they had their issues during COVID as well to deal with, but coming out, doing well.
They are.
Multiple projects. And Jamie's... Well, both of them, but I talk more to Jamie from time to time. He really looks ahead and he plans, and he looks for potential problems ahead and solves them early. That's one of his traits as well. He's got other good ones, but that's what I like about him.
Yeah, they were just a great couple to have in the mentoring program. It's always cool when you have cool people to hang out with. But yeah, they do it. They are doing well. They're always out there looking for more. Keep an eye out for those guys. Soho Development.
Oh no, it's not Soho.
Sorry, no, it's
it's Alpha
Square.
Alpha squared. Alpha to the power 2.
That's right, Alpha Square. What about 90 and 91? 90 was an unbiased approach to choosing a property development course, and 91 was an unbiased approach to choosing a property development mentor. And I got an email from someone saying, I don't think that was unbiased. And
only from one person. That's all right.
And yeah, maybe people might have thought that. It was.
I try to be as unbiased as I can. How could you be like 100% unbiased when you know what you know?
Yeah, and the amount of problems when people come to us after they've done what they've done and done courses and then
they're not always the first.
No,
we're not always the first port of call, but we're always the last.
Yeah, and so we just think, maybe if people knew what they should ask, then they might have better outcomes. So maybe it was slightly swayed, we could say, but
right, only in an effort to help people.
Yeah, totally, absolutely. Oh God, totally and absolutely. 2 words we're not allowed to use. Okay, we're coming to the end, so we've got
getting close to 100. Where are we now?
This is 95. I'm talking about now. What to do when your builder goes bankrupt?
Oh, that's never fun.
No, you've had it happen 3 times. Twice.
I've had it happen twice.
You're
putting the wood on me. Yeah, I have had it happen twice.
Yep.
It's never a joy. There's, we went through all the things you have to do in terms of, first of all, extracting yourself from that contract.
Yeah.
And how to look for new builders, and how to proceed and how to deal with the financing. We covered those things. Not a pleasant thing to happen, but something you may have to deal with. I've only had it happen twice in near enough to 40 years and $1.3 billion worth of projects. That's probably pretty good. I was talking to somebody not long ago. They built a house, and they had 3 builders.
No.
Yeah, the third one finished it.
Oh,
First
that would
2
have been
went broke.
exhausting. Poor things.
Yeah, it has to be a record, but yeah.
And then we've got leveraging your equity for property development. And I think for that one, that we really focused on hopefully letting people understand that equity there is a difference between equity and usable equity, and then that's also impacted by serviceability. So there's a bit more to that.
Yeah, and what is equity and what is debt?
Yeah.
How to make them work for you?
Yeah, 98 was our property development site stacking up, and we put that one in there because I remember I'd had a phone call from somebody. Oh, that's right. Someone else doing somebody else's mentoring program, and they rang me and said, "Where are you guys finding sites?" And then I was like, well, then he said he was doing a mentoring program with someone else, and I thought, well, go and ask him.
Yeah, he said I have.
I was probably a bit rude, and I felt really bad afterwards. I thought, I shouldn't have.
Fair comment.
I know.
They weren't getting any help.
But then I haven't got episode 99 down here, which was last week's episode, which was on improving yourself by 1% every day.
That's that incremental improvement.
Yeah, the aggregation of marginal gains
That's the one.
by choosing to just make small improvements in every area of your life, or even if it's within property development, like just small things instead of seeing the big picture and making it difficult.
That's gold. If you're watching this podcast and you haven't seen that one, you have to see that one.
Or if you listen on Apple or Spotify.
Listen or watch.
Whatever.
Yeah.
However, jump in and have a listen to episode 99.
Because that's been used at international and Olympic level, that principle.
I got so many
training
texts
athletes.
after it too. So many people text me thumbs up, screenshots. It was awesome. So yes, well done. Well, Bob, that's it. That's kind of the highlight.
That was fun going back over those. You were sort of reflecting and
it'll give the other property podcasters something to follow.
Indeed.
Oh, I suppose you can print it out anyway. They could have a look.
Yeah.
But anyway, we have had fun up to episode 100, and this was the best of. Big summary of what went on.
The best of album. How many tracks are there? I think you did about probably 20, 25 tracks on that album.
Yeah, maybe it was. Next week we'll be covering, believe it or not, I've already decided the topic.
Oh, tell me.
Yes, we are going to be
I've heard of it.
talking about developing out of state, the pros and cons.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so when you develop not in the state you live in or nearby, the good and the bad that comes with that. But anyway, we thank you so much for listening. Thanks for everyone for joining us for our 100 podcasts.
Well, if not for our viewers and our listeners, we wouldn't have done 100.
Yes, and you know what? If you listen to us and you would like to share our podcast, we would really appreciate that. If you've got friends that you think might enjoy, just share it. Let them know.
Value, share it.
Yeah, and hi to the people that listen to us when they're travelling, going to. I know Alyssa, she listens as she's dropping the kids to school. Who else? Nicole listens. So many women let me know, which is awesome. And I'm sure there's heaps of males as well. And actually, somebody I spoke to last week, but a lot of people. So just thank you so much for supporting us. And we'd love for you to share it. That's it. Episode 100. We'll catch you next week. Bye.
Bye.